True Review is back and I have another top 10 for you. This time it's the top 10 worst boss battles that I've personally come across. I mean seriously, there are some terrible fights out there. Most boss battles are at least somewhat enjoyable, but these next 10 are not for all of the wrong reasons. Some are just unnecessary, while some are just downright unfair. This will not be a happy video, so with all of my rage now on standby, let's start this one then, shall we?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ready or not, here we go.
Jericho from Driver San Francisco. Many of you won't know this, but I f***ing hated this game. It astounded me how a game called Driver would have such terrible driving controls. Pulling handbrake turns was way too much to ask for, and any form of cornering made it feel like the road was covered with ice. But at the end, we face off against Jericho, the main villain of the game. You start off by chasing him in your mind like 6 million times, before waking up to the real world and then chasing him again. The entire ending section went on way too long, and the entire time you're chasing him, you're having cars thrown at you, and other vehicles are trying to ram you. Get hit once, and you get the honour of starting again, because Jericho will be long gone by the time you've shifted back into first gear. And each time you finish one of the end stages in this game, you feel mentally drained, like, thank Christ that's over. That was just too much to take in. Ridiculously hard. Well, at least I can take a break now and never play this game again. But then the game resumes and you realise that there's still more to do, and it does this like 5 times. That's 5 times after you've had enough, not 5 times in total. It outstays its welcome by several sections, but the last section is where it really drives it home, if you pardon the driving pun. You wake up in the real world from being in a coma for several days, and do what any sane person would do in this scenario, and immediately get behind the wheel of a car. You then chase down Jericho again in another annoying and hard to control car chase, but then once that's done, someone else catches him in the end cutscene. I mean, how much more can you tell the player to go f*** themselves than that? You've just put me through an intense whipping session with terrible controls, and I don't even get to take down the bad guy? Someone else just comes crashing in through the walls and takes him out, like the driver of the other car got lost and accidentally came here like, is this the way to the convenience store? Guaranteed never playing this game again, unless I have to record footage for f***ing True Review episodes, goddammit. Nyx, Persona 3. Nyx is the endgame boss in Persona 3, and despite how much I liked that game, and how I thought that some of the bosses in it were really well designed, the actual end of game boss sucked a chunky sausage. In fact, some of the other bosses, before we get to Nyx, were a complete waste of time. Jin and Takai, for instance, were set up to be tough encounters, but in both times you fight them, they suck shit and die quicker than you can say Persona, which really strikes me as weird when Persona 3 has one of the coolest boss fights ever, the fight against the Strength and Fortune Arcana, in which the enemy's attacks are entirely determined by the player, creating new boundaries between the player and the enemy. But then there's Stevie Nicks at the end. Now, this character is hailed as Death Incarnate, and whilst he isn't particularly a difficult boss to fight, you go through something like 16 different forms before getting to his final form, all of which can be defeated in a single round, which begs the question, what's the point? Then you get to his final form, which, again, isn't difficult, but it takes like f***ing forever to get his health down, that you'll be chipping away carefully at his health for what seems like forever, like trying to copy a Michelangelo. Then, once he's almost done, what does he do? He takes control of one of your party members, gets them to heal him back to full health, and then you get to enjoy fighting him all over again from scratch. F*** you, Nyx. F*** you. The Joker from Batman Arkham Asylum. By far one of the most unnecessary boss fights is that of the Joker's final battle in Arkham Asylum. Though this one's been covered by most, it's still astounding that the developers thought that it'd be a good idea to boil a character who's all about manipulation and poses more of a mental threat to Batman rather than a physical one, down to Well, Bane really. They turned him into Bane. We already have Bane, he was another boss fight! This battle against the Joker, though not being a fail of a fight in itself, does feature some of the worst aspects that are found in boss battles, such as pointless waves of lesser enemies and loads of button mashing. What's even more of a kick to the crotch here is that the sequel, Arkham City, sports one of the best examples of boss battles with their take on Freeze, who learns from your moves, forcing the player to constantly change their tactics. So what were they thinking when it came to the Joker?
Lane Goodman.
The Dark Prince from Prince of Persia: Two Thrones. I love the Sands of Time trilogy, and I thought that the ending to Two Thrones wrapped up the whole thing nicely with a Christmas bow. Well, at least from the story side of things. It's just a shame that the gameplay ended on a bum note, leaving the player with a taste of shit in their mouths. At the end, you'll face off against the Vizier, who, for all intents and purposes, has turned into a god, and you end up going through quite a satisfying fight, believing that this is the endgame boss fight. And that's where you're wrong, because once he's down, you get the real endgame boss fight. So throughout the game, there's this battle going on for the Prince's soul against himself and the Dark Prince, but right at the very end, the Dark Prince comes out and drags you into your own mind. F***, this is getting deep, son. Well, you start off attacking him, but to no avail. Oh, and he doesn't fight back. Then you have some acrobatics to do, and then you face off against him for the last time. Do you want to know how intense this fight is? Well, once again, he doesn't fight back. Only this time, when you attack him, he just splits into two Dark Princes. So to win this fight, you run away. Yeah. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. To win the fight, you have to bail. And that's the last image you'll be left with at the end of the Sands of Time trilogy. Not any of the grand feats you performed during the series, nor any of the epic encounters you come across. No, the image you'll be left with is the prince running away from the Dark Prince going, "F*** this, I'm off." Great going, guys, you should have just left it with the Vizier. Maester Seymour from Final Fantasy X. Okay, so you know that there's no way that I could make a list of worst boss battles and not mention a Final Fantasy title here. And we may see more along the way. Get it, Seymour? Yeah, I usually go for the only one title per franchise rule when it comes to my videos, but fuck it, these two have to get mentioned. Well, I'm gonna have to ruin Final Fantasy X a bit to explain this one, so please bail if this is gonna be a problem. Seymour Guardo is one of the antagonists in Final Fantasy X. He's a powerful individual, a champion of the people, and a complete wanker. He wants to save the world from sin by defeating sin and then becoming the next sin, sin, but there's probably more to it than that. He starts out on your side, and you even get to play as him in one of the many boss battles. But then he starts being a cunt by using Machina against Sinspawn, which in Final Fantasy X is like reading a porn mag at a funeral. And then he tries to marry Yuna, but that's only so he can get a look at Yuni's poonie. You then go back to him so that Yuna can give him her answer about marrying him, but instead decides to kill him, or rather, she sets you on him. The first fight with him is like trying to take a leak on a bungee rope. Difficult, but doable, though you'll probably end up with piss on yourself at some point. And I'd like to point out that he dies at the end of that fight. Then he comes back because f*** you, and you fight him again, which is also difficult, but doable. Then you fight him for a third time, and here's where I'm at. His health bar is f***ing through the roof. He can attack more times than you can. He has a drone that heals about 1 round's worth of damage per round. He can debuff your entire party. He can insta-kill all of your Aeons, and he can insta-kill your entire party, if you're not careful. Bullshit. I know that some Final Fantasy boss fights are below the belt, but this is just silly. I like challenge in a video game. Hell, I even crave it, because there's nothing more boring than a game that you just fly through. But there's a thin line between challenging and just difficult, and this boss fight missed that line by several continents. His ability to insta-kill your whole party wouldn't be so bad if my party was buffed up. Which they were before he used his first attack to debuff them, his second attack to kill 2 of my party members and leave Sir Auron, with 300 hit points left, and then just gently slap him on his third attack to finish off the fight. I did beat him in the end. but not before throwing my PS Vita out the window and hitting the nearest dickhead on the street. Like I said, I like challenging boss fights, but I don't like getting bent over a theoretical barrel and getting theoretically bum-sexed up my theoretical arse from behind. Theoretically, of course. You guys should know by now that I love the Deus Ex franchise. And yes, that even includes Invisible War. But despite how awesome Human Revolution was, it did sport some of the worst examples of boss battles I've ever seen. This game really emphasises on stealth, and you'll most likely be spending all of your praxis points on upgrading your stealth and social abilities. Oh, too bad none of that's going to work on any of the boss fights, because in those, you're just put up against a wall and shot at several times. All the fights in this game just feel so out of place for a stealth action game. Just look at the Barrett's boss fights, it's so one-sided. Or the end fight where you just shoot at some bots. Or the one against Namir. Watch this, this is me fighting him. How fucking stupid was that? I think though, if I had to choose one fight that pissed me off the most, then it's the fight against Fedorova. Most of this fight, you'll be running away, recharging your health. You'll follow her around while she's cloaked and try and get a few shots at her, but finding her is a bit of an issue. You could follow the vibrations in the water to see where she went, and she could be right around the corner, or on the other side of the arena. Who knows? Then Eliza tells you to run, so you just sprint all over the place for about 30 seconds, and then you go look for her again. Great. Or you could shoot the electrical nodes on the walls to zap her, but in doing so, you'll kill yourself in the process. So unless you want to lose the fight, then it's probably not the best option to go for. Well, it's up to you really. Killing yourself is a valid option. I mean, you know, each to their own. As much as it pains me to say this, because I do genuinely like Force Unleashed 1, this fight was a complete balls up. Have you ever played a game where there's one particular boss fight, and the game's telling you to do one thing, but no matter what you do, it just doesn't work? And you're like, ah, what do I do? I'm doing what the game says, but nothing's happening. Well, this is one of those fights. Now, whilst the idea behind it is really good, the actual execution of pulling a Star Destroyer out of the sky with just the Force turned out to be a load of bantha fodder, if you pardon the Star Wars reference. The screen will give you prompts on which buttons to hold down, but rarely does this actually correlate to what you're actually supposed to do. Meaning that once you realise that holding down D and S isn't working, despite the game telling you to hold down D and S, you'll just mash buttons until you get it right. But you won't pull it down in one go, because all the while this is happening, TIE fighters will be coming at you shooting you, so you need to break off and kill them. But whilst that's happening, the Star Destroyer is moving back into its original position, just so you can move it all over again. Isn't that considerate? It was those 3 words to save my life. Steiner in Dark. Arguably one of the easiest boss fights ever. Steiner is the endgame boss fight in the 2013 video game called Dark. He's this huge and intimidating looking vampire who's set to crush you in one blow. He's set up to be one tough cookie. So to win this fight, you walk casually around the arena, and then when the game tells you to go over and use one of the consoles in the wall, you go over and hit the action button. That's 1/3 of the fight done. Do that 2 more times and the fight is over. That's all you do. You walk slowly around the map and push some buttons. The game gives you a long heads up about where Steiner is going to attack and when, so to avoid him, you just walk off somewhere else. And because he's not actually in the arena for most of the fight, there's like 0 threat at all. And this is the endgame boss. Are you fucking kidding me? But to be fair, this is exactly the kind of shit I was expecting from such a terrible game anyway. Dark didn't get anything right. If you're interested about what this game is like, then I mentioned it in my 10 more games to complain about video, so go and watch it for more info. Silver the Hedgehog from Sonic 06. It's no use. Once he's got you into a corner, then it's no use. Nothing you can do will get you out of there. And it's not like you can just die and reload the last checkpoint, especially if you have one ring left in your possession, because it will fall out when he attacks, but when he instantly gets you in his psychic grip again, that previous ring will magically find its way back to you, meaning that you won't die, and you're caught in this never-ending loop of, how about this? Take this. Like, this boss fight makes no sense. The only way to kill him is to attack him when he's about to attack you. But if he actually does attack, the fight's pretty much over. If he gets you, then there's a really good chance that he's won. And if you're in a corner when he gets you, then that's a guaranteed fail, no question. Oh, and if you're in the air when he gets you, then you'll never touch the ground again, because he'll catch you, throw you in the air, and then catch you again when you come back down. Silver keeps telling me that it's no use, and he's right, you know. You might as well stop playing. In fact, this game is so bad that if you want some enjoyment out of it, then all you have to do is turn the console off, put the CD back in its case, open the window, and throw it out at the nearest dickhead on the street. That'll serve him right for not learning the first time when I hit him with the PS Vita. But the thing is, this isn't even my worst boss fight. At least I can do Silver the Hedgehog. Wait, that sounded sexual.
One more time, got me feeling so free.
Sid f***ing Reigns from Final Fantasy XIII. Nope, not Barthandalus, but the one after him, who happens to be like 10 times worse. To this day, I have not been able to kill this dude, and here's my explanation as to why this is. Think back to earlier when I talked about Seymour. Pretty much all of the points I made then are relevant now. He has way too much health for his own good. He can attack 8 times to your 4, and then there's this one dick move which is real f*** you to the player. At certain times, he'll put up a magical shield around him, and during this time, you'll do practically no damage to him at all. Where once you'll be causing damage in the hundreds, possibly thousands mark, now you'll be chipping away 2 to 3 hit points per attack, so attacking him during this stage is redundant. However, this is the time to heal and buff your party, which wouldn't be an issue because then, when his shield comes down, we can lay the smack down on him. Only problem is, when his shield does come down, he unleashes this powerful attack which completely strips your party of any buffs that they may have, he fully buffs himself, and then causes a ridiculous amount of damage that will most likely insta-kill the whole party. And once that attack is done, he'll enter immediately into his 8 attacks with no breaks. So now, he has 1 overpowered attack and 8 attacks to your 4. No matter how you look at this fight, it's designed to be unfair and extremely hard. Sid has been set up to win this fight, and no amount of strategy, character combination or paradigm shift will help when faced with an insta-party debuff, self-buff and insta-kill attack all in one. There's challenge, and then there's the game telling you to fuck off because it doesn't want you to play it anymore. Hell, you might as well start me off with no health in this fight, just to make it a bit more fair on the enemy. How is it that a fellow Lassie has so much more health than me, and is able to be so stupidly overpowered? Overpowered is the key word here. A boss fight isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to push your abilities to the limit, and provided of course that you're in the zone and have control over the situation, then you should just pass through. You should not, however, enter into a boss fight where the game has already got your defeat in mind. Boss fights shouldn't be impossible or frustrating. If a boss fight is hard, then it should be the player's fault for not getting their head into the game, rather than the boss being way out of your league. Fuck Sid Reigns. End of transmission. But if you want to fuck Sid fucking Reigns, then likes and subs as usual, and there's plenty more fun love to be had in all of my other videos. Go check them out for yourselves. Before I finish, I want to give a huge shout out to my main man, Triple Threat SB, for an absolutely stellar piece of channel art that was made specifically for this channel. Make sure to go over to his new channel and give him lots of subscriptions and love. True review away!
Watch this.
His second attack to kill 2 of my party members and leave Sir Auron, with 300 hitch points left, and then... Did I just say hitch points? What the hell is a hitch point? And leave Sir Auron, with 300 hitch... I said hitch points again, members, and leave Sir Auron, with 300 hitch... Come on! Hitch points. His second attack to kill 2 of my party members and leave Auron, sorry, Sir Auron, with 300 hitch points. I did it again! Sorry, Sir Auron, with 300 hit points. Tried so hard not to say hitch points and I fucked up. And leave Auron, sorry, Sir Auron, with 300 hitch points. Fucking hitch points!